Hello and welcome back to the show. So I am really excited about my guest today, Garrett Maroon, who is the founder of 210 Realty Group, a top 1% team in Southeast Virginia. And Garrett is here really to show you guys how you can actually build a business where you can have both time and money freedom, and you can actually make a full-time income as a real estate agent without burning out and still have fulfillment in your life as well. So I think it's going to be a very important topic. A lot of agents out there want to have this lifestyle, and Garrett's here to actually teach you guys how to do this. So, Garrett, man, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you on and have you dig into your story.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much for having me. I've been in the industry 11 years, man. I'm passionate about helping agents figure out, how do we have this elusive business and life, right? That's why we got into this industry. And too quickly, I think agents realize that the very thing standing in the way of that life is actually their business. And so we just got to solve that problem, right? So yeah, whatever I can share that will be a benefit, brother. I'm an open book.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And just for anybody out there who don't know who you are, who haven't, checked out your other podcast appearances, out there on the internet today, would you mind just sharing a little bit about your story? Because I think you have a pretty unique story in that you were pretty successful as an agent, and then you were able to kind of shift your business a little bit and make it so that it actually serves you and your lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. So man, I've been in the industry for 11 years. So 2014, as I mentioned, I was an assistant director of admission at my alma mater, making like 40 or 42 grand a year, maybe something like that. And my wife and we'd been married for 2 years at that point. We didn't have any kids then, but I realized like, man, I can't afford to have children on a $40,000 a year salary, right? So I almost went and took a new construction job. It's gonna be a project manager, but my wife said, I think you'd be good at real estate. And I came from a family, amazing family, right? But commission was not in our vocabulary, right? You were a salaried employee. And so my wife Rachel said, I think you'd be good at real estate. And I just trusted her, honestly. And so I decided to join a team in 2014. I started on a team. But man, it took me 5.5 months to make my first sale. So, so I came into the industry, it's 2014. My wife and I agreed that if I hadn't sold anything in 3 months, that I'd quit. Because I don't know, it was an arbitrary time frame, right? Like, I guess I'm not going to be good at this if I can't sell anything. Well, I remember that conversation 3 months in that specific night, going home to dinner and telling my wife Rachel, I think I can figure this out. I wasn't sure, but I think I can figure this out. Can I have another 3 months? And thankfully, in the Lord's kindness, we agreed. And 5.5 months in, sold a house, ended up selling 14 more that year, 27 my first full year, and then 50 every year after that. But man, I've just been really fortunate in what this industry has done for me. So yeah, 11 years, started on a team in 2016, left and started my own team, and then joined EXP at the actually beginning of January 2024. So I have a team, but I've also shifted to really influencing and helping agents as opposed to, being fully focused on the consumer side. And so that's been a huge blessing as well. So man, it's been an incredible journey. I'm so thankful for it. We've got five little kids, 8, 6, 4, 2, and 3 months. Yeah, so man, I haven't slept in a very long time. So if I say something that doesn't make sense, just edit it out, right? Go and we'll just move on. But no, man, it's been the greatest blessing of my life. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until I got here. It took me about a year and a half to realize maybe I like this. And man, I've learned so many things along the way. And yeah, like I said, we'll share anything and everything you think is beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you mentioned you started out, and I think like most agents, right? In the beginning, first couple of months, you struggled a little bit. I think most agents do,
Yeah.
right? Starting out, not having a lot of momentum in their first, I would say 3 to even 6 or more months of
Yep.
their careers as an agent. But you were able to turn it around, I would say fairly quickly, right? Because you didn't close your first deal until about 5.5 months, and then you had a very successful first year, and then just
Yeah.
really skyrocketed from there. So what was it that you would accredit to that shift between those first 5 months and then I guess the rest of your career up until this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, great question. I think so. I was only 27, right? I was relatively young. And when I came in, I did all the classes, right? On, well, social media wasn't a big deal back then, but open houses and cold calling and buying leads and referrals and all the things. I knew enough to know that if this business is going to be built, it has to be built on relationships. That's how I want to build it. And if 5 years from now I had a big business, but it was based on cold calling for me, I wouldn't even want that business. So I would attribute to two things. Number one was actually picking a path and sticking to it to become a master at it, right? So I have in 11 years been fortunate, I've sold over 650 homes. I've never bought a lead. I've never done an open house. I've never cold called anybody. I've never done it. It's been 100% word of mouth. I'm not from this area. I started with 40 people in my database, right? So I would say the first thing was it was a choice to say, I need to master something, and I'm going to choose to master the art of working by relationship, right? And it's more than just, oh, I work by referral. There's a lot of skill set and mindset that goes into that. So I'd say that was number one. And then number two, and I didn't realize it, at the time, my friends would always give me a hard time and they'd say, have fun at your nonprofit volunteer work today. And I'm like, you're a jerk, but it's true. I'm not making any money. I didn't realize this at the time, Kobe, but I look back and now I see it, is I was making progress, but it was underground, right? I couldn't see it yet. It was not resulting in sales, which was the only metric I had to say, is this actually working? What I did early on, so I was 3 months in, I hadn't sold a house, right? I hired a coach. I realized, man, this is about my brain versus the other agent's brain. And if I can outthink them and outwork them, I'm going to win eventually. I didn't know when that was going to happen, but I'm going to win. And so I launched what I called the 3 L's early on. So every morning I started with an hour of learning. So I would read some business book, an hour of lead generation. So connecting with the 40 people in my database who heard from me a lot early on, right? And then 15 minutes of launching. So I would spend the next 15 minutes of figuring out, where do I want my day to go, right? So I learned, I lead generated, and I launched my day. And again, I'm in there just trying to figure this out myself, not really paying attention to what everybody else is doing. But looking back and even knowing the industry now, what I realized was, if I can push my mind and my business forward every day, which I was, that's genuinely better than like 95% of agents. They won't push their business forward with lead gen, or they're not pushing their mind forward. And so when you think about, it took me 5.5 months, finally made a sale, first full year 27, second full year 50. It wasn't because I'm some amazing magical agent that I hit 50 in my second full year. It was, looking back, it was the compounding effect of, I was learning at least 5 hours a week reading something, at least 5 hours a week of lead generation. And so the compounding effect of those efforts, right? Of, you play that out over 50 weeks, 250 hours of learning, just that alone for 2 years in a row. So I walked into my second year having 500 hours of reading books under me. Of course, I had new ideas, new thoughts, was more effective in what I was doing, right? So, man, it was really that. It's looking back and saying, I was implementing, without me knowing, implementing the idea of this compound effect of my knowledge and lead generating for my business. And it came to a head, man. I mean, I had two really good launching points, and then hit 50 deals that second year when I was 20, 28, 29. And so, man, it's, to me, that's it. Like, if you can outthink the agent next to you, you don't have to outwork them. If you can't outthink them, you better outwork them. But if you're willing to do both, it's game over at that point, right? So, man, that to me, looking back now, 11 years ago, that was what was going on. I just didn't really realize that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of agents are in the same position as well, especially if they're starting out or maybe they're working on something new or they're in a position where they want to increase their production,
Yep.
where, they're working on something for a long time and it's compounding, but you're not seeing the results immediately, right? You never do, and you shouldn't, right? Anything that
Yeah,
happens overnight, it's not happening overnight. There's always going to
that's
be a
right.
compounding effect that has to add up to that success as well. So you mentioned you
Yeah.
really based on your business on mastering relationships, right? Mastering connecting with other people, and especially, for somebody like yourself who was a little bit newer to the area that you're in. You mentioned only had 40 people in your database when you're starting out. How were you able to do that? Because there's a lot of agents who, I guess they think they want to master relationships, but they don't really know what that means, right? Maybe they're just going out to parties every weekend and they're just
Right.
talking to people in coffee shops and whatever. But what did that mean to you to master relationships? How were you able to bring that to your business?
Yeah. So again, another great question. I think and it's good timing for me. I'm teaching, leading a mastermind tomorrow, and I'm talking about this idea, right? Is how many agents would say, "Well, I work by referral." So I'll backtrack real quick. I learned a lot of this by just building my own business, right? And I'll explain how I built that and what I was learning. But I hit the road in 2019, and for about a year before COVID shut us down, I was traveling around and teaching all over the place, teaching how I was selling 50 homes a year, right? What I constantly found was that the significant number of agents that if I asked them, yeah, how did you build your business? Oh, I work by referral. And then if I asked them one of two questions or both, they didn't have an answer. So I'd either say, oh, well, then what's your referral dialogue to explain that to your clients? Oh, what do you mean? I don't understand what that means. Okay, so you're not explaining to your clients how your business is built, so they don't even know, right? Or I'm asking them, all right, well, what kind of system and structure do you have to make sure that you're nurturing those relationships? And man, overwhelmingly, they didn't have anything. And so what I realized was the reason that my business succeeded is because I actually put in place legitimate structure, right? What I now call systematic relationship building. And those words are not at odds, right? And people, how can you systematize your relationships? I'm like, my wife and I go on a date twice a month. That's a system, right? Friday night is pizza family movie night. That's a system. Why? Anything that we care about, any relationship that we care about, we truly systematize to make sure it happens. And so, man, I was putting in place these pieces in my business to make sure that I was staying top of mind, right? And I'll explain what that was. But two major psychological shifts that I had to learn and understand, and I would start here, is early on. So it's 2014. I was leading music at our church, and one of the guys on my music team with me, he showed up. I think it was a friend's birthday party. He showed up at a friend's birthday party, huge smile on his face. His name's Jimmy. I'm like, Jimmy, man, why are you so excited? And he said, Garrett, I just bought a house. And he's like, and then immediately, right, his face dropped. He's like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, man. I totally forgot you're an agent. And it was, bro, I'm excited for you. It's okay. It's not your fault. It's my fault. Well, so I went back and I had to figure it out, man. And so I started reading and studying psychology and how consumers make decisions. And, there was depth to this instead of like, oh, well, just keep sending mailers. It was depth to this where I realized that the average person only recognizes you in one context, right? So you don't call your music leader at church to help you buy a home. You don't call the assistant director of admission at a university to buy a home. You call a real estate agent. So I had to get them to think about me that way, right? So any agent that's new or any agent that is struggling to generate referrals from people that you know, it's maybe because they just don't think about you in the appropriate way. So what I did to change that, right? I only had these 40 people to start. What I did to change that was for the next 6 months, when I talked to them in a business context, right? Not every time I saw them, that would be obnoxious. But every time I talked to them in a business context, I'd say two things. I would say business and real estate in every conversation. So it might look like, hey, Jimmy, great seeing you at church yesterday, buddy. Hey, wondered if you had a quick minute to talk business. I want to share with you what's going on in the real estate market, right? So I was training them, honestly, how I wanted them to perceive me. So when they thought about real estate, now they'd actually think about me. And so that was huge. That was number one. Number two was, and most agents never go to that level, right? We just like, oh, they're my friend. Of course they think about me that way. Well, no, they don't. Think about every context they are aware of you. Think about your doctor who you see in the grocery store, and it's like, who is I? Oh, that's my doctor, right? Like you can't remember them out of context, and so you have to change the way they think about you. The second piece was most agents never go as far as what I call qualifying their database, right? So it's pretty common in the industry. Someone comes in, they're a new agent, and they say, all right, here's what you're going to do. Make a list of everybody you know, and you're going to start sending them stuff, right? And like, all right, I mean, I don't, you probably get these too. I get stuff in the mail, Kobe, and it's from another agent. It's like, hey, thinking about buying a home, give me a call. I'm like, why would I do that? I'm an agent. Why are you sending me stuff, right? And so most agents who say they work by referral never go far enough to actually qualify a database. By that, I mean, you have to actually physically go ask these people. This is the dialogue. Hey, whoever, hey, if you had a friend or family member thinking of making a move, do you have an agent you'd refer them to? That's the question. Some of them are going to say, yeah, actually, my sister is an agent. You say, great, that's awesome. They should not go in your database. Why are you spending time, energy, and money on someone who's literally not going to work with you? That doesn't make sense, right? Some of them are going to say, no, I don't have an agent. That's your chance to say, hey, I'd love to be that agent for you, right? Let me capture your phone number, email, home address, and now I can implement our system. And then plenty of them will say, actually, you'd be my agent. Oh, amazing. Hey, I realized I don't have whatever your home address, and we send out client party invitations through the mail. Can I grab that from you, right? And so now I'm capturing their information. But what I've gotten, the difference that I've seen, Kobe, from the people I've coached and taught is if they go qualify, now we're actually talking to a database that has agreed, given me permission to reach out to them, given me permission to remind them that I'm in real estate, right? Instead of just mass mailing and never actually having the conversation with agents. And so now my database is 270 people and it produces 50 transactions a year. Why? Because it's the right people. I'm spending anytime I spend time, energy, and money in my business, I know it's going to somebody who's going and willing to refer me and is going and willing to work with me. So it's a game changer when you actually build the foundation right. And so I'd start there, right? How are people thinking about you? How are they perceiving you? If you have a side business and you're posting about your side business all the time too, you're confusing people, right? They don't know who you are anymore. And so choose how you're going to show up, right? Actually do the hard work of qualifying, which for highly relational people like me, Kobe, is hard because people are going to reject me and they're going to say, oh, I already have an agent. You're like, oh, that hurts way more than it should. But that's okay. This is the step we got to get through. And then we move on to actually implementing a system, right? So that was a super long answer, brother. But from a foundational perspective, I think those are massive areas that agents misunderstand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it, man. I love the system you've developed because there's a lot of agents out there, like, we're just talking about who don't really know what it is that they're doing. But you've developed the system where you know exactly who it is that is in your database. You
Mhm.
know they need an agent, and you know that you can become that agent as well, not just
Yep.
wasting your time, money, and resources, right? And you mentioned you have to do the hard work of actually speaking directly with these people, right? Of actually learning a little bit more about them and whether or not they need you as the real estate agent or they have somebody else. And a lot of people out there, a lot of agents who just, put out mailers or automations, they don't want to do that, right? They just kind of want to capture everybody in their, in their neighborhood or in their town or in their city, right? Or in their state, right? I've seen people do that as well, which is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
right. So that's something that you've done really well. And I'm sure you're helping other agents do this as well. So I really love that you brought that up, is that you're
Yeah.
qualifying people because now they're giving you permission to actually reach back out to them and create that relationship. Whereas you're not forcing yourself upon them, you're not forcing your business on them. They actually want the value that you want to deliver.
Yeah. I think what's so interesting is you ask an agent who is highly relational, what is your intent if they never go through the qualifying, right? What is your intent on reaching out to these people that you're reaching out to? Oh, I want to make sure that they have help and they're being well taken care of, whatever. And then I say, okay, well, think about a friend of yours who became an insurance agent, right? And the insurance industry taught them to cold call their friends and say, hey, how you doing? And blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, do you have 3 names of people that might need insurance that I could call right now? I mean, that's happened to me multiple times. And in those conversations, I'll stop my friends and say, bro, if you just said flat out up front, man, I'm calling because I need help getting my business off the ground. Do you know anybody I could talk to? Instead, you're accidentally annoying somebody by pretending that it's about this when really you're just trying to sneak in through the back door and you're annoying the person. It's like, dude, you should have just asked me if I'd support you, and I would have. And now there's, these agents that are highly relational are accidentally creating annoyance and bothering people that they're in relationship with because again, I didn't give you permission to reach out to me. Why are you sending me stuff, right? I don't even know what this is for. And it's because the agent is afraid of that potential rejection to do the qualification, which I get it, right? They're afraid of that rejection. And so because of that, they're spending more time, energy, and money on people that will never actually support your business and potentially turning off people who would have supported your business if you just ask them that question, right? So once you have that, the beauty of this is how simple the process and system is. And so, man, for me, what I realized was, too many agents, when I look around and I see it still, but too many agents build their lead generation strategy on possibility as opposed to thinking about probability. Okay, so what I mean is, man, the agents I've coached, they'll have the most comprehensive lead gen strategy you could possibly imagine. And I'll look at it and say, that's the greatest plan anyone's ever created ever. But then the second question, all right, but here's my question. What's the probability that you're going to execute all of this for the entire year? And most of them, it's like, I don't know, 50%, maybe 60%. So then my answer is, all right, then it's too complicated. You need to cut stuff out. And my process is you keep cutting and cutting and cutting. You take things out, right? You focus on doing less, but being better at it. You cut stuff out until when I ask you what's the probability you're going to do this, it's at least a 90%, and ideally it's 100%. It's just that simple, right? Because we also build strategies around, we're recording this October 1st, right? So whenever anybody's listening, you're thinking about the end of the year, what am I going to do for 2026, right? We build strategies with this assumption that everything is going to go right in the year also, right? That we have as much time every month that we normally would. And none of that's true, man. Like, I lost my mom October of 2022. Did I have the same mindset and energy and thought? No, absolutely not. Was I super fortunate that I simplified my lead gen strategy so much that I was still able to execute it and keep my business pushed forward? Even sitting there by the bedside of my mom in the hospital room. Yeah, what a blessing that was to say, man, and I didn't know that was going to happen. It was this reality of saying, man, we've got to make it so simple that even when I show up and my kids have been crazy or I'm exhausted, I didn't sleep well, that I still can actually do what needs to be done to push my business forward. Even if that means I do my 10 video texts and that's what I had planned for that day. If I took a nap the rest of the day, which definitely did sometimes, especially when the little ones were really little, if I took a nap the rest of the day, guess what I did? I pushed my business forward, right? And most agents didn't. So I was still winning in that scenario. So man, we overcomplicate. We think that simplicity is makes us look like we don't understand anything deeper than, I'm just going to do these few things. No, simplicity scales, whereas complexity fails. And so from a lead gen strategy, again, the agent that's trying to do five different things, it's just not possible, right? We've got to get simple. 90 to 100% chance you're going to actually execute. If you just did that really, really well, long term, over time, it's going to change your entire life, right? We just get bored, we move on, we don't trust the process, all the things that go along with that. So I don't even know how I got there, Kobe, but hopefully there's some value for your people there.
I think there absolutely is because there are too many agents who are overcomplicating things. And I think it's important to, like you mentioned, simplify things down because I think there's too many people who are setting, I guess, daily or weekly goals for themselves at a certain point where they think that they're going to be performing at their best, like you said, right? You think that you're going to have all the time in the world, you're going to feel great. And they're saying, we're going to do these 100 things every day, right? And of course, you can do that when you are feeling great, but you're not going to feel great most of the time. And
That's right.
sometimes you're going to feel really bad, right? So you need to plan for a plan, you need to plan for something that you can do consistently, even when you are having the worst day, right? So I always tell, people all the time, like, what is the bare minimum, right? Don't think about what's the best that you can do. Think about what is the worst you can do and then try to maintain that over
It's
time.
good.
So that's what I
Yeah,
think
really good.
is important as well is that you have to think about on a bad day what it is that you can absolutely get done and then still keep getting that done so that way it does compound and the other part of that as well you mentioned is not getting bored, right? Which is I think a
Yes.
big problem for a lot of agents as well is that they just get bored. There's so many shiny objects out there, new tools, new ways to generate leads, new training on how to do this and how to do that, and they're just not trusting the process and sticking to the system that they've built that they know that can work if they do it for a long enough period of time as well. So I think that's really important. And something else I really wanted to kind of get your take on, which is,
Yeah.
you talked a little bit about this in the beginning of the show as well. We talked, as we're doing their introduction, which is, you've now kind of at a point in your business where you're thinking a lot more about how to build a sustainable business so that way you're able to have your life back. You have a big family. How do you spend more time with them? So at what point during your, I guess, production career did you start making that shift, right? Because you're doing really high, number of transactions, right? 50 deals more a year. You're selling a lot of houses. I'm sure there's a lot of agents out there who are maybe in a similar position that you were, who are doing very high production, but they're burning out, they're not feeling great, and they want to spend more time with their family. They want to, go back to the roots as to the reason why they started the real estate
Mhm.
career, which is to have freedom, have more fulfillment. So what was that like for you? How did you make that shift? And what led you to where you are here?
Yeah, I mean, phenomenal question. And I do think, my big passion broadly is, win for me, win for being on the show, win for the book, win for the organization we're running, all the things, the coaching, all the stuff is literally if there was a day where a child of an agent walked up to me and said, I don't know, they call me Mr. Garrett, Mr. Garrett, thank you so much for helping my mom. Because of you, I get to see her a lot more. Right. Like the problem in our industry is we are in pursuit of this definition of success that the industry has given us to say, what success is? How many homes did you sell? How much money did you make? What kind of car do you drive? That's the definition of success. But if I said, well, what if that meant that you no longer talk to your spouse and you don't see your kids and you miss every single dinner at night? They say, oh, no, 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 that's not what I want. Right. But we're in pursuit of things that we don't actually care about because there's only one way that we're tracking and keeping score, right? Which is how much money am I making? I realized that in 2021, and there's another story behind it, but I realized in 2021, man, why am I in pursuit of all of these things? I had a bigger team. We were selling about 120 homes by referral, and it was great, man. Things were going really well. But I had this opportunity to sit down. I was doing some thinking time and had written out this goal of how do I double that? How do I double my profits? Well, I couldn't figure out how to do that without working an extra 20 hours a week, right? So I'd be at like 50, 60 hours a week. Well, I just stopped and asked myself the question, in 5 years from now, if I could look back on the guy right here, right there in my backyard, who would I be most proud of? The guy who figured out how to double his profit but had to work 50, 60 hours a week, or the guy who figured out how to keep his profit right where it was, but drop my hours to like 15 hours a week, which I thought was possible. And man, when I asked that question, it was super clear. That's what I actually want, right? Is how do I do this in less time so I have more freedom to be around my family? So I come back up to my office and I wonder like why did I even build it? So it was four agents, I had three full-time admin, right? It was like 150 grand in salaries. And I honestly didn't know why. I was just doing it because that's what the industry said. Hey, you become a solo agent, or you start on a team, then you're a solo agent, you do really well, and then you build a big team and like, okay, I'll just do what they tell me to do, honestly. But I realized that's not even what I want. I was just following their playbook. And so I had to stop and say, man, this is not even what I wanted this to look like. And why did that happen? I wasn't asking myself the right question, right? If you say, and I think that's really where most agents get stuck, is we don't ask the right question. We ask the question the industry taught us, which is, it doesn't matter where you are in your production journey. Maybe you're an agent and you're relatively new and you say, how do I sell 20 homes this year? Right? That's a really good question. But if that's the only question you ask, I tell you that's easy. Work 120 hours a week. You'll get there, right? You'll figure it out eventually. Go borrow 100 grand and buy a bajillion leads and do an open house every day. You'll get there. Of course you will. But we don't learn to ask the bigger, better question, the question that encompasses our life and what we desire in that too, right? So in 2021, I'm looking literally at now what I call my new scoreboard, right? The way that I actually track and keep score for what my life looks like. Yeah, there's a profit goal. Now there's a wife goal. There's 2 dates a month. Now there's a family goal, take every seventh week off. And so now I get to ask a better question instead of how do I make this much money, right? Which again, that question is easy. Just work yourself to death. There's a ton of answers to that. Now I get to say, how do I make that much money while still protecting 2 dates a month and being able to take every seventh week off? Now I've got a better question, and the better question leads to a better answer, right? And so when it all started for me, it was 2016. I went on my own in March of 2016, hired my first admin, was paying her about 40 grand a year. My wife was still working. We didn't have kids at the time. Well, the month after I started my own team, her father went into surgery for triple bypass surgery. It didn't go well. He ended up in the hospital for 2.5 years before he passed away. And so my wife quit her job, right? She went and he lived 3.5 hours away. So she was with him a lot. So we went from literally an $80,000 swing overnight, essentially, where she was making 40 grand and that that went away. And now all of a sudden I have an assistant paying her 40 grand. And so I'm in this place like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Right. I now have this $80,000 hole that I got to figure out. The same month, April 2016, I don't know why, but my buddy and I bought a flip and we also did all the work ourselves, which that was a terrible decision. Right. I don't know why I did all of those things. But it led me to my hours were literally I'd work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday. And then I'd go, my wife was gone most of the time. From 7 p.m. to midnight, I'd go work on the flip. And I did that for like 4 months. And so here I am, it's working, but I'm burning out. Sit down with my wife and I tell her, I like took a day off. I spent time saying, man, what am I actually trying to accomplish here? And I sit down with my wife and I say, look, here's my plan. I think I can sell 50 homes this year. I'd never done that yet. Think I can sell 50 homes this year, but I think I'm gonna have to work like 80 hours. And I told her all this cool things and all the stuff we were gonna be able to do. And she didn't say anything. Like, did you not hear me? Do you need me to tell you that again? Right. And so I said, babe, I think I can sell 50 homes. It's gonna be this, and this is what it looks like. And her response is what changed my life. She said, that's amazing, but I need you to figure out how to do it in 40 hours a week. And I was, what? How do I even do that? And so again, what I didn't know then, which I know now, was my wife was reframing a better question for me. How do you sell 50 homes a year and under 40 hours a week? Right now, I had the question that I needed to go solve. Business isn't us thing, it's not a me thing. And so she absolutely had the right to say that. Now I had to go say, what kind of business, what kind of lead generation strategy? How do I actually sell that many homes in literally under 40 hours a week? How do I do that? And I went and figured it out, right? And it was just because I had a better question. So, man, I think if someone is struggling and saying, how do I get my life back? And that could be an agent selling 10 homes or five or 100, doesn't matter. You got to stop and ask, am I measuring the right things? The things that I said matter to me, right? What is definition of success? Is it just how many homes I sell, or is it being home for dinner 3 nights a week, right? And how do I protect those things? And then you got to ask, what question am I asking myself that I'm building my entire strategy on? Is it literally, how do I sell 30 homes this year? That's fine. That's not a very good question, though, because what about everybody else in your life that's like, hey, what about me? I want to be included in that too. So, man, I think when we reframe the question, when we reframe and redefine what winning looks like, it changes how we build our business. We actually become more excellent because in order to change, in order to succeed at that level in the time constraints we give ourselves, we actually have to take things out, right? And become more excellent in the things we leave in, right? Again, less but better. That's my philosophy. Do less, but do it better. And when we do that, when we get hyper focused on those things, you can build an amazing business and have an insane amount of flexibility to be with your family. It's still hard, right? This is still hard, but it'd be harder to be broke, right? It'd be harder to be gone from my family all the time. So it's going to be hard either way. I get to choose what that's going to be. And it starts by asking the right question.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. You have to reframe the way that you think about your business, the way you think about your life as well. Because, people coming into the industry, the first question they ask is, how can I make this amount of money every year as a real estate agent? Or how can I sell this many homes a year, right? But they're not thinking of the right question which is, how do I do this, but still have, this amount of time with my family? But how do I do
Mhm.
this and still work under these amount of hours every week, right? Because
Right.
the whole point of being in the real estate industry, the whole point of, running your own business is not so that you can work 100 hours a week or more, is so that you can work eventually less, right? And then that
Yeah.
comes obviously with proper planning, with being able to, like you said, stay hyper focused as well. So, is that something that I guess you ran into maybe some problems, some challenges with in the beginning as well? Because you did mention that this was something that was, it's obviously going to be difficult, but staying hyper focused, staying disciplined, right? Is that something that, you saw that was, a little bit challenging for you in the beginning and also other agents out there? Because like we talked about, it can be in business, it could be just in designing your lifestyle. There's so many different things trying to distract you, different people in the industry, outside of the industry, right?
Mhm.
So how do you maintain that focus long term so that way you're able to stay on track and, not get distracted by that new shiny object over there?
Yeah. I mean, discipline is so hard, man. Put a donut right in front of me and see if I eat it, right? I'm going to eat that donut. And so, man, discipline is a struggle that we all have. I think that What I learned early on is okay, yeah, I want to pursue discipline. I want to be more disciplined. Of course I do. I think all of us want to be more disciplined. But I realized, okay, but I gotta build a business understanding who I naturally am anyways, right? So I'm not gonna have a hard morning and show up and do something that's hard, right? Like if I've had a terrible morning, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go lead generate today. Of course I don't, right? And so what I had to train myself to do, and what I do now is I started pre-planning the entire year. And I don't just mean, hey, in the month of February, we're going to do this. What I mean is in November, excuse me, or early December, I'll print out a blank calendar for all of 2026. And I will and I know we already have our system, right? I know what levers we press on each month, but I'll know, for example, the month of January, we're going to send a video text. I know that in the month of February, we're going to do handwritten notes and Amazon gifts, right? In the month of March, we're going to run a client party and we're going to have coffees. But it's not just that. I actually will go through and say, okay, so if I have 270 people I got to send video text to, and I can send let's say 300 people to make the numbers easy. I have 300 people to send that to. I am going to do 30 a day, right? Because that's what I can do. Then I got to pick 10 days. So literally go through. I have no idea what day January 7th is, but let's say January 7th. This is my lead gen calendar. All it says is send 30 video texts. And then I'll pick, 9 other days. And so that's it. Right. In February, the exact same thing. If I got to write all these notes now, if they're couples, so I'm probably writing 150 to 175 notes. That takes a long time. So maybe I want to write 10 a day, 20 a day, whatever it is. All right. So I need 10 days. I'm going to go ahead and pick February 10th, February 11th, whatever it is. And now all I have to do, right? I'm not choosing each day. I failed early on when I would show up and say, okay, now what should I do today? Right? Because it was totally based on my emotions. It was totally based on what I wanted to do, how I felt that day. And so now instead, I will look at that calendar and literally, if it says nothing, then I'm like, sweet, I've got a free day, right? I can go do whatever. I could read, I could go meet some people. It doesn't mean I don't have stuff to do, but I have no lead generation on the calendar today. Fantastic. If I show up on a day and it says send 30 video texts, fantastic. I'm going to do that first. And when that's done, I get to go do whatever I want. The difference is, right? And Henry Ford is the one that said it. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, which is totally true. I can tell you, Kobe, in December of 2031, what we're going to be doing for lead generation that day, right? And because of that, I can pre-plan exactly what happens. And then once it's written down and once it's in the calendar, because life happens, my simple rule is you can never delete that day of lead gen. You can only defer it to a different day. It's that simple. You get there and you're like, you know what? My wife is sick and I got to watch the kids, whatever it is. This was a 30 video text day. That's fine. I'm just going to draw an arrow. I'm going to move it to there. Right. And what I found is every month I can get that done. It's not that much. When you know the right levers to press on, it doesn't take that long. It's that agents either don't know what to do, and if they do know what to do, they just don't do it often enough. Those are the two problems that agents have. So printing it out, pre-planning the entire year, literally every single day that I'm going to do lead generation. I walk in, I look, oh, nothing to do today, fantastic. Oh, gotta write 10 notes, fantastic. Pull out the notes, do them, done. Push my business forward, right? It is honestly that simple. We just don't operate in that space. We show up and we do what we feel like, which is a terrible way to build a business because most of us don't feel like doing that, right? So that's for me, man. I'm not a crazy disciplined, but I let my calendar tell me what to do. And so I just show up and do it.
Yeah. And that is so important, man, to be able to stick to that. So that way you know exactly what it is that you're doing and you're priming yourself as well to get ready to do it every day that you have a task or a
Mhm.
lead generation activity that you need to do versus, you're waking up one day, you feel great, right? You could do 100 video texts and then you wake up the next 20 days and then just not feel great and never do
Right.
it and you're not prepared to do it either, right? So I
Yep.
think preparation is so important when it comes down to sticking to your schedule, sticking to your plan, and also I will say the other way around as well. If you have a free day, right, do you have the discipline to stick to that? I think a lot of
Mm,
agents probably don't, right? They're probably going to get distracted by a lot of thinking, I need to go do this or I need to go do that, or I'm not working hard enough. I think that's another part of it as well, is that you have the
great
discipline
point.
not only to work, but also to step away from work as well, because we need to be able to do both in order to have that true, kind of balanced, fulfilled life that we're trying to create as well. But
Great
Garrett,
point. You're
man,
absolutely right. Yep.
I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today
Oh,
and sharing your value with us. I thought that it was a great episode for sure, and you definitely, I think, inspired a lot of agents who are listening to this to go out there, build a more relationship-based business, but also create a lifestyle where they can actually design what it is that they do every day as well. So, for our listeners out there that want to connect with you, that want to learn a little bit more about what it is that you're doing, that maybe want to work directly with you as an agent as well, what are some of the best ways for people to be able to reach out to you and do that?
yeah. Well, thank you, brother. So, and I would say first too, for any agent that's looking for more help in their business, reach out to Kobe too, right? Like we are in a model that gives us a significant opportunity to give away a lot of value for free. That's an amazing thing. So if your business isn't where you want it to be, reach out to Kobe, reach out to me. We'd love to support and help you in any way we can. But yeah, man, I would say right now, go to the balanced with a D, thebalancedbreakthrough.com. That's the name of the book that I've got coming out this November. If you're listening to this before November, then it'll take you to a download that is what I call the PDA formula. How do you build a predictable, profitable business that actually aligns with who you are? And that's going to get you started, get you some quick wins. If it's after the fact, it's going to go to a place you can order the book, and there's a bunch of freebies that we give with that, man. And then if an agent is just needs to connect, man, text me 757-266-2876. They can reach out to me directly. And hopefully you'll see that I'm actually living what I'm preaching because I won't answer you on the weekend. I won't answer you
Mhm.
after 5. So don't be offended if that's what happens. But yeah, man, anything I can do to be supportive. I know you have the same heart to help agents succeed and win at a higher level, both in their business and in their life. That's what this is about, right? This is why you do a podcast. It's to pour into agents and help them achieve in a level in a way that they never thought possible. Man, I love that your heart is that. That's my heart too. So agents, reach out to me, reach out to Kobe. Anything we could do to support you guys, we'd love to do that.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much, Garrett. We'll make sure to leave the links to how to reach out directly to you in the description and the show notes down below. But other than that, man, before we let you hop off here, do you have any last piece of advice, any last tips, anything that you just want to leave with the audience here before we wrap up for today?
Hmm. Man, that's a dangerous question for someone who talks a lot, but I'll make this nice and short, right? So, man, I've been thinking about this a lot, not because I'm, in morbidity, but we're all going to die one day, right? And so I've been thinking about, all right, what do agents spend their time doing, and will it ever make the headstone? Right. So you're at the end of your life and you've got a headstone now. And we're 3 days away from the anniversary of my mom passing away. So, this is kind of front and center for me. On your headstone, is it going to say, sold 100 homes and GCI of whatever, $1 million and whatever? Like, is that what it's going to be? Or do you hope that it's something much greater than that? Right. And I would hope that you think it's something much greater than that. So if that's true, then when you wake up each day and you're going out to build your business in your life, what are you in pursuit of? The thing that's not going to be on there that's pleasing to the industry, or the thing that is going to be on there that's pleasing to the family and the people you love? Right. I'm not saying don't go be excellent in your business. You absolutely should be because you showed up. You should be a good steward of that. I am saying there are things way more valuable. Don't allow the industry to pull you off focus to what actually matters to you. Comparison will kill you. Comparison will make us think that we should be doing more. That's not the question. The question is, what kind of life are you trying to build? Build a business that serves that life, and recognize at the end of your life, 100, 200 years from now, nobody's going to care how many homes we sold, but they will care how we love the people around us. Right. So man, it's just a choice, right? Everything is a choice. And so I would just encourage agents each day, we got to show up and make that choice, right? What am I in pursuit of long term? And if we can stay on that path long enough, man, it's going to change everything.
Absolutely. That was powerful, man. Thank you so much, Garrett. Appreciate you. Appreciate you tuning into the show, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.